Hello, and welcome to the Love Brought You Here podcast. I'm your host, Cassandra. Several episodes ago, I recorded an audio only essay, and it was called The Hall of Prisoners. And that was a turning point for me in my life. I finally started to talk about a situation and use creativity and use art, which I'm always pushing people to do on this podcast. Creative healing through rebellion. I started to actually close something that had been happening, this limerence, this situation that I've been holding on to for literally decades. And I started to actually heal it. I had tried to address it for years and years, and particularly for the past 4 years. And it just wasn't budging. And writing and sharing and reading that essay started to open a door for me where I was able to release it, where I was able to start to make sense of it, and where things began to make a lot more sense to me, where I saw that this was a form of limerence. And it was my brain had tried to overcomplicate things to hold on to it for so long. And so I just wanted to read to you. This is a very raw kind of essay. It's just a follow up to that short story, The Hall of Prisoners. And I thought it was interesting because it's based on some thoughts that I had very recently about how addiction and grief are very related, and we don't think of them as such. And as a matter of fact, we think of addiction and grief as related to drugs and to death only. And that's so inaccurate because not only do they exist far beyond that, but they exist within relation to each other. This isn't even a complete essay, but I think there's a lot of important information in it. And I think that you may be able to take some things with you. I believe the resistance to making a decision when presented with a crossroads. We will navigate life in circles, constantly returning to the same crossroads until we have enough courage in ourselves to make a decision, whether it's right or whether it's wrong. And often the idea of quote unquote right and wrong is what prevents a person from actually making a decision. But the fact of the matter is that there is actually no right or wrong decision outside of making a decision, period. Addiction and grief exist outside of drugs and death, but we lose sight of that. Addiction resists the change, and grief allows the mourning and the loss that facilitate the change needed to choose a path and to finally move differently. Unfortunately, external love isn't a powerful enough force to compel a decision when faced with a crossroads. It must always come internally. We worry so much about labeling situations as people. We want to say narcissist, abuse, abuser, victim. While those labels can clinically be important, I think that the everyday person becomes so caught up in trying to appropriately label something that they don't even understand. The everyday person doesn't understand them, that we lose track of what's actually important. What is happening internally? How does this person or external situation make you feel inside of your body? I'm no exception to this. For decades, I struggled with addiction, but not like you might think. My addiction wasn't to a substance, not a drug or even a food. It wasn't to sex. It wasn't to thrill seeking or any type of experience of the similar nature. It was to a single person and the idea that one day they might choose me. And I was somehow completely unaware of how she actually made me feel inside. Chemically, relationships of this nature, the maybe they'll pick me one day, it lights up the same parts of the brain as if you were actually taking a hit of a drug. It's the same, it is an addiction. These relationships don't have to be even traditionally physically or even emotionally abusive. And that's perhaps why my addiction actually lasted for decades. It wasn't in binary good or bad. It, of course, was toxic in many ways, but that was never the intention on either side. I truly believe that neither party ever had the conscious intention to try to control the other, although that was the impact from both sides. I believe this fully was unconscious, though. Or maybe I'm projecting my own morality onto the other person, as I tend to do. but I don't think so. Not this time. There was genuine love and there was genuine infection, perhaps, affection in this relationship. But we were both caught in our own addictive loops, one to actual substances and me to this person. Both of our cycles stemmed from traumatic experiences as children, and neither of us had dealt with the consequences of those circumstances. One of us was conscious of their decision to ignore the past, identifying the roots, yet admitting that they would never be willing to explore it with curiosity, not even with a therapist. The crossroad happens when I awoke from a fog known as dissociative amnesia, which is the brain's way of protecting itself from trauma that's too painful to endure. So it disconnects memory from emotion, essentially, the mind from the body. It stores those memories away in an untouchable place. Sometimes people regain access to them when the mind and the body deem it safe enough to do so. And some people never remember what happened to them. I was in the first category of those who remember eventually. For me, it was 39 years old. And when my memories of an Epstein-like true crime past came rushing in, I also rushed, but towards the memories that were unlocked. I wanted to explore them. I wanted to touch the root cause of so much of my pain and my suffering throughout my life that I could now understand. This was the moment in 2022 when I realized I wanted to get better, and it was actually within my grasp. And this was also the crossroads and the impact of us, beaten down by years of toxic relationships and each existing as mere shells of humans that we were when we had met 20 years earlier. We relived a scene that we had first enacted exactly 20 years earlier to the very day, June 21st, 2022. We looked into each other's eyes just as we had decades earlier on the same date. And as I listened to her, I heard her tell me, I'm not willing to heal this. I'm afraid of ever being alone. I recognize the underlying cost of the refusal, and that had always resulted in her addictions. I always had known this. And at the age of 40, it was blossoming into full chemical dependencies, despite her outward success in her professional life. And in my gut, I knew that this had to be the end of the impact for us, because I was bending towards the light regardless of how hard it was to get there. But I also knew that it wasn't a moral failure on her part. This fear of addressing pain didn't change who she was, not to me especially, nor her myriad of beautiful parts and strengths. It was a lack of belief in herself, not a moral failure. But I knew that. And I knew that she was strong enough to face it if she wanted to, if she was willing to. I knew how strong she was and how strong she likely still is. But she was creating a convincing and strong scaffolding from the outside via her public-facing roles that signaled to the world that she was fine internally, hidden behind the tarps and ladders of her outward illusion in an effort to hide her shattered heart. Most people couldn't see through it, but I could. And I could see directly into her potential, even though I saw the crossroads before me, and even though my lantern had held a light to my path, I didn't want to make a choice. I was afraid I wasn't strong enough to make a choice. I was afraid that no one would ever love me the same way that she had from the moment I had met her when I was 18 years old until I was now an adult, almost 39. I was afraid I'd miss the opportunity to see her full potential realized by her, the potential that I already saw in her. I heard the soft whisper of my subconscious say, she's not willing to grow, at least not right now. So you have to choose. But I ignored it and I held on even more tightly. I ignored the words that came from my own mouth 5 months later as I told her I needed to fully end contact after decades because I loved myself. I heard the underlying message of, I recognize my own toxicity and I can't keep hurting you like I keep doing. And I feel like I can't control that right now. So I'm going to remove myself. That's all I heard. And I wasn't even saying that part out loud. Yet for 4 more years, I still held on to hope. I grasped so tightly to the illusion that one day, after we had both spent time growing and healing separately, we would reunite to become a powerful and loving couple that we were always meant to be since the moment we had met. And so continued my own addiction, long after contact had ended, long after the cord of dependency that connected us both had snapped in two. Within the scope of my internal world, I worried only about what the next hit of my chosen drug, my love for her, might feel like. What would unfold for the next time we came face to face? What was she thinking? Did she think about me? Did she hurt at my loss like I hurt at losing her? If we were to relive the same scene again, would it finally end differently this time? Maybe this time. The words rang through my head just like the musical number from Cabaret. Maybe this time I'll be lucky. Maybe this time she'll stay. Maybe this time, for the first time, love won't hurry away. She will hold me fast. I'll be home at last. Not a loser anymore, like the last time and the time before. I was addicted to her gaze. The moments that we had locked eyes so intensely, I had to look away and break eye contact before my soul completely left my body. 3, 2, 1. Before the last second, I'd always turn away before my hunger for her consumed me. But I was never addicted to her. It was the idea of her. I was addicted to the high that she never let me fully experience. The moment of flying high before the moment of the crash. But I never caught the high, only the descent from it. Chasing the dragon, they call it. Chasing the dragon of the first high, the best high, the most exhilarating high that you experience. Mystical, fiery, dangerous, but possibly tamed through patience and cunning, I thought. And she chased the dragon more literally. Substances, hunger of her body, the deprivation of her perfect body disguised as discipline and athleticism, emotional starvation by her partners, until the crash. But after her crash, I was there to slay the dragon that she had always tried to hug. And that was the difference. And that was the crossroads. And that was the end of the impact of us. Thank you for tuning in again to the Love Brought You Here podcast. As always, I encourage you to create, whether that's writing, whether that's painting, whether that's just explore something and share it if you feel comfortable. Visibility is healing, whether it's good or bad. And just a little bit of information. I have not sung in probably 13 years. So that was terrifying. It was horrible. I recognize it was, I don't know, just doing it cold turkey after not singing for so long. But I think that moment's going to be very healing for me. I encourage you to find something that scares the shit out of you and do it. Until next time, always remember that creative rebellion is an act of love. Choosing yourself is an act of love. What will you do? What will you create? Love brought you here. If you've trusted love this far, don't panic now. Until next week, I'll see you later.